I've been thinking about this a lot recently as I've been seeing TikTok art challenges and like quick tips and hacks as I've been scrolling through my Instagram and looking through some artists' pages about some stuff that I've learned since I was a beginner that I didn't internalize or listen to or know until much later in my journey. I have so much more to learn in my art journey, but these are some things that I myself have learned through trial and error and also from learning from other artists. So I want to create a quick, concise video with some of my best tips for beginner artists. Let me know if you like the style of video. I think just filming it casually is a little bit more like we're sitting down on FaceTime together. So let me know if you like that or you just prefer a more professional style. My very first tip applies mostly to traditional art, but also a little bit to digital. Something that I see a lot of from beginner artists is not mastering their own shading style. We talk about shading techniques quite a lot of the time, but we don't talk about how artists have their own individual shading style that really defines their style as a whole. I find that beginner artists are often looking for a quick way to figure out what their style is going to be. When I look at some beginners' artwork, a lot of times I see shading that can't make up its mind. It's a little bit too blurry in places where definition would add a lot of dimension to the actual contours of the face or clothing, whatever you're drawing. And at the same time, while some shading on the same drawing is very soft and diffused, there are other parts of the drawing where you have to fill in a larger amount of space with shading, where the shading is done sloppily and carelessly without much thought to the actual lines that you're putting down on the paper. I see this a lot of times in hair where there's really short, jagged lines used for the shading, where you're trying to shade a large mass, but you're kind of bored of it. You know, you've lost your patience a little bit with it. I personally have a distinctive shading style, which kind of entails outlining where the shading starts and ends and then filling in that box almost like color blocking, while also having shading that follows the natural contours of whatever you're drawing. For example, when I'm drawing a face, I like the shading wherever I place it to just follow the contours of the face. When it comes to hair, even though sometimes you're wanting to shade in an entire area, I like to hatch in the actual shape that the hair moves to give it more texture and dimension. I definitely blend my shading a little bit so it doesn't feel a little bit too harsh and textured, but that being said, you don't have to follow how I shade. I think instead of focusing on your subject matter, take a little step back and focus on the way that you shade. It's going to totally improve your drawings. My second tip is about simplification. Especially beginners really get caught up on photorealism. You feel like you're going to be a little bit of a better artist if you can draw every little tiny detail that you find in a reference photo. And while there are artists that have amazing styles that are extremely hyper, like photorealistic, I think a lot of artists simplify greatly. I definitely simplify. Simplifying adds so much charm to your own work. Simplification is a lot more difficult than some might think. If you see a very simple drawing that is a portrait of a famous actor or famous character and you can immediately recognize it, that is such a testament as to how good that artist is at simplifying, because you're not able to take in every little tiny hyper-realistic detail to add to your drawing. You have to be able to pick out the defining qualities that make this celebrity character and add them to a simplified artwork. You can assess your own art and figure out how you can simplify a little bit better. A personal example for me is sometimes in my digital paintings, I really like to focus on crisp details all around on the piece. As I've gotten a little bit less lazy with my art creation, I have started focusing a lot more on having all of those details that in general I would just leave a little sketchy and rough, having them crispened up. I find that my end result in digital art can sometimes look way too smooth and polished in a way that doesn't have any character to it. And one thing that I love to do with my digital paintings is to add textured effects, light leaks, and grain to the end result to add some grit, some texture, to make it look almost a little bit more like a photograph. That's a way that I have personally applied simplification in my own work. This third one is really sad. It's sad for me too, but consistency beats motivation. The truth is, I'm not very motivated to create art. Since it is my job, I don't feel very motivated to create because I have to create so often. Success in your art comes from regular practice, not waiting for inspiration. I've seen some comments lately that's saying real artists don't need any reason to draw, they just love to draw. And while it's true, it's not that you're lazy or not a real artist if you don't feel that automatic inspiration and pull to draw every day. That doesn't detract from you being an artist. It's just difficult with so much overconsumption that we have of screens, of media, so much work that we have to do, so many faces pieces that we see every day in person and on social media, sometimes it's just so overwhelming and you just want to sit there and stare at the wall. And I think it's unfair to say that real artists always want to draw. That's not true. I don't always want to draw, but it doesn't mean I don't love to draw. I love to cook. I cook most meals. Sometimes I like to get takeout, you know? Something I recommend for you as a beginner is to schedule your work to maintain a steady flow of progress. I have a video that I just posted recently that talks about how I draw daily, and I think it's a great resource, so it's going to be linked in the cards right now. I recommend checking that one out if you want to learn how to draw consistently. Consistency is so much more important than inspiration. That being said, if you overwork yourself, that will lead to burnout. It's a tricky balance, but one that you have to figure out for your own life and how tired you are, how much work you do during the day, how much time you have to invest into creating art. Taking breaks from your work is also important for you to step back and to be able to come back with fresh eyes and see mistakes in your work more clearly. Taking breaks from your work can even help you come back to the piece and see what your initial emotions are looking at it. If you had a different goal for those emotions when you started the artwork, it can give you some clarity on what to change in the painting or how to evolve the painting so that it can give off that feeling, that emotion that you originally wanted in the piece. The best way that I found for myself to implement both consistency and breaks is by consistently drawing smaller pieces that don't take so much energy and time, and then still scheduling in big pieces that I'm working on. Maybe I'm working on a larger piece every week or every 2 weeks, and I'm drawing a little bit every single day of something that's manageable and easy for me. My very last secret: art is a long game. Professional artists know that building your career in art takes time and patience. There are no shortcuts other than learning from your own experiences, and that's why creating art consistently is so important in your growth. You are going to be able to learn from your mistakes and figure out what's best for yourself as an artist, instead of being discouraged by how much there is for you to learn or achieving the skills that you don't feel like you have now. I recommend, instead of starting a large painting, a large project, and rushing through the process, trying to take some shortcuts here and there when it comes to your shading, your colors, your details, instead start with small and manageable pieces. There's nothing wrong with drawing something simple. If you're learning a new language, Duolingo is not going to make you learn 4 paragraphs to say perfectly, but it's going to give you a little word every single day to learn and to implement, right? Think of art the same way that you would think about learning a new language. Take tiny little steps every single day. Before you know it, you're going to be so much farther in your art than you were when you started. The painting that I'm working on today is a commission. I loved working on this one. It was a prompt to create a portrait in an Edwardian style, and I really love how this one came out. If you want to commission me, I have a commission page down below that you can check out and send me an inquiry for. Lastly, my book on digital painting is coming out in February. I'm so excited for it. If you would pre-order it, that would mean the world to me. I've worked on this book for several years at this point, and I am so sure it's going to be a fantastic resource for you, especially if you're a beginner or wanting to start digital painting and don't really know where to start. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. I put new videos out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.